Hey, what's going on, everybody? Gabriel Santos here. So in today's video, I got some a little different, interesting for you. Basically, I'm gonna ask you what are the top three stressors in your life? Like, what are the three things with the highest degree of stress in your life currently? Okay, and the reason I'm asking you this is because recently, with one of the clients I was working with, he initially reached out to me because he wanted to change his marijuana habits and his life was going a certain direction and blah, 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 blah. And long story short, this person was living in a toxic home and recently moved from that home to his own place away from the toxicity. And what he shared with me was that being away from the toxicity that created so much stress and anxiety for him reduced his need to smoke in a lot of negative ways. Okay, so basically, the anxiety and stress from living in a toxic home required that he use marijuana to self-medicate and get through that stressor. Right? Makes total sense. Now, this person still smokes marijuana, but some of the ways in which he was most upset about his marijuana use went away because he no longer lives at that toxic house. And so consider that. And then on a separate note, I have another person I work with who, just like many of us, they smoke mostly when they're anxious and stressed. And it's funny. Okay, so let me as I'm talking, think about the three main stresses in your life. Okay, but I want to share an insight with y'all. So let's say you have a hard deadline on a project, massive project, right? So high stress because high consequence, right? If you do well in this project, you're going to pass, which means you get to go to college, right? If you don't pass this project, that means you fail. That means you don't get into college. Okay, let's pretend it's that dramatic, right? So high stress. And so you have two things but really just one, okay? Okay? You have the anxiety and stress that's caused by the test and the deadline. Okay, but the real issue that most people are dealing with is the stress and the fear and the resistance. Okay? And so what a lot of marijuana smokers will do really is they'll go to deal with the anxiety, they'll smoke the weed. Now here's at some point or another, you have to deal with the deadline. Okay? And so whether you smoke weed or not, you got to deal with the deadline. Now, the ironic part is that for most people, what will reduce that anxiety of the deadline is to actually make progress towards completion of the project, right? Not smoking weed just to reduce the anxiety. Because the reality is the anxiety is being produced by a stimulus, okay? That stimulus is the deadline of the project, okay? And the only way that the anxiety of the deadline will go away is if you create certainty within yourself that you will turn something in. Okay, but the only way you'll get certainty that you're going to turn something is if you're working on it, on the project, right? And so if you have anxiety and you smoke weed, yes, you don't feel the anxiety for a day, but then if you didn't work on your project, the next day, the anxiety is going to come back probably just as intense. But you'll notice that the anxiety of the deadline should reduce itself the more you work on the project and create certainty within yourself that, oh, this is a good project. Oh, it's going to get done. Oh, we're in the process of meeting this deadline early. Oh, so you create certainty within yourself, okay? But if you just smoke weed and you never do anything about the project, then you're never actually solving anything long term. You're only putting a band-aid when really you need stitches. right? And so uh, um, consider that, you know, and this is where it gets really ironic, just so stupidly ironic. Like, what stresses people out is the fact that they're smoking too much. And so then they're anxious about the fact that they're smoking too much. They're depressed, they're upset. The solution is to smoke less, okay? But just like with the project, instead of working on discipline or working on tapering or working on reducing their usage as the solution, they smoke to reduce their anxiety of how much they're smoking. But then you smoke to reduce your anxiety, but then the anxiety is caused by the fact that you smoke so much. And so then you're smoking to reduce the anxiety, but the smoking is what creates the anxiety. And so then you're smoking more to reduce anxiety, but then your anxiety increases because it's so fucked up. So fucked up. Right? So I'm going to leave you there. But think of three high stressors that you have. Like, maybe you just don't fuck with your job at all. And so, yeah, that, like, if you have a job that you don't like and there's no end in sight and there's no future change in sight, yeah, your baseline happiness is probably going to be at like a 5 out of 10. I know what it's like to be at jobs that I don't fuck with, right? And then just extend that down. Maybe you have like a significant other that just, man, they're just not for you. So that's stressing you out. Maybe you're lonely. Maybe you don't have a support system. Maybe, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's usually like smoking weed in a negative way is usually just like meaning like, oh, I'm avoiding something, or like, oh, like there's a difficult emotion I don't want to face, or like, oh, like just something, you know, like. And this is why I offer help via YouTube, via coaching, because like, by and large, I went through my journey with weed like by myself, and I had to read tons of books, I had to get tons of coaching, I had to go take so many seminars, so much confusion, so much depression, and I'm here to like reduce that for y'all. I want to reduce the suffering, I want to reduce the confusion, I want to create clarity, create empowerment, create insight, and create transformation. And what's crazy is that my favorite type of transformation is the conscious transformation, which then reflects itself in reality, right? But let me put it to you this way. Someone can be drinking a glass of water and be like, oh my God, I hate this, I hate my life, this is not gonna work. Really, a glass of water, it tastes bad, it's horrible, I hate myself on the inside, how's this gonna help me? And they're drinking a glass of water. And yet that very same person in 10 minutes can be like, oh my God, water's so good. I love water. This is nourishing me. I'm so thankful for this water. It brings me so much health, like, and it's free for the most part, relatively speaking. And it's so simple yet so healing. And wow, this water's so good. And the same principle can apply to marijuana. The same principle can apply to not using marijuana, okay? So my whole name of the game is that internal world. What are the beliefs that are not serving you? What are the emotions that you want to shift? What are the true issues in your life that need addressing? And it could be your marijuana use is way out of control. We should address that. But why? Why is it out of control? I don't know. Gotta figure that out. It could be something deep like, oh, when I was 7, I was raped. And it has left me with this feeling of depression and anxiety that I've never dealt with. So I just smoke weed. Oh, fuck. Yeah, it's not the weed, it's the fucking trauma, right? Or maybe like, oh, like I'm bored and like, you know, I have a 9 to 5 and I'm comfortable, but I just kind of smoke weed instead of leveling up. And so the solution is to level up. And it's like, oh, why aren't you leveling up? Oh, I'm scared. Oh, it turns out there's this deeper emotion, right? So I'm just saying that a lot of times it goes a lot deeper than it appears, and that no one needs coaching, but it's extremely helpful because of what it's intended for. And you could totally watch these videos, totally read a book, totally never spend money, and totally get through this, all right? Okay. Anyways, Hope this video was valuable. I just found it so interesting with the with the clients that I work with, where their quality of life keeps going up, yet the true change that creates that shift is not necessarily just their reducing marijuana. Usually there's a correlation between like overall how their life is going in general. And so I guess to cap this video off, just consider that your marijuana use isn't the number one indicator of how well your life is going. And instead, I actually because like it can just get real murky if you start to approach it that way, right? Where you make how many times you smoked or didn't smoke, it just all depends, guys. And this is why I keep saying it, like there's so many different angles and aspects and details that must be considered. I really hesitate to like make a lot of I know I do make a lot of blanket statements, but it is so personalized and individual and unique that like, man, it feels unfair sometimes to say certain things because it doesn't necessarily apply to everyone. And so, like always, take what serves you and leave what doesn't. Anyways, I'm done ranting. We're posting this one. But yeah, like I said, hopefully this video left with you with some value. I appreciate you all. Continue to take ownership of your life and follow your own path. Give yourself full permission to do that. I give myself full permission to do that. I give you full permission to do that. And that you have, it's okay to give yourself permission. If the world is in stress, it's okay to be calm. If the room is at a 10 out of 10, you can calm it down. You don't have to be afraid just because everyone else is afraid. You don't have to agree with XYZ just because everyone agrees. You might receive pushback. You might receive disagreement. You might even receive hate. But if I'm complete with myself, then who the fuck cares? If you're complete with yourself, who the fuck cares? Right? Don't hurt anyone. Don't hurt yourself. And at the end of the day, as long as you're not hurting others and not hurting yourself, who the fuck cares? So anyways, all right, for sure done. Have a good rest of your day. Love you all.